Church on Sundays, not because the family is particularly devout, but because your mother believes in the structure of it, the weekly rhythm of sitting together and being quiet in a place that expects nothing from you except presence. Your father pays for everything and never discusses money. You don't realize this is unusual until high school, when your friends complain about their parents fighting over bills, and you realize that in your house, money has never been a conversation. Not because your family is wealthy in the way that announces itself. No luxury cars, no designer clothes. Your father drives a 4-year-old sedan and wears the same 3 suits in rotation. But there's never a moment of hesitation. Tuition for your private high school, SAT prep courses that cost $300 an hour, a laptop for your birthday, a car for graduation. College fully funded, no loans, no scholarships needed. You apply to the University of Virginia because you love it, and your father writes the deposit check without blinking. You never see him worry about money. You assume this is because he's good at his job. He is good at his job. His job is just not what you think it is. You decide to join the FBI during your junior year of college. A guest lecturer from the Bureau's white-collar crime division gives a talk about financial fraud, and something in the way she describes the work clicks into place inside you. The patience. The pattern recognition. The slow, methodical unraveling of systems designed to hide the truth. It appeals to the part of you that your father built at the stove when you were 7. Low heat, slow circles, don't rush it. You tell your father over winter break. He's quiet for a long time. Then he says, "You'd be good at that." He says it the way someone says something they've been expecting to hear for a long time but hoped they wouldn't. You don't notice the tone. You're 21 and excited, and you interpret his pause as pride, rather than what it actually is, which is the sound of a man watching a very specific future arrive ahead of schedule. He pays for your preparation, the application fees, the background check documentation, the physical training program you enroll in, to meet the Bureau's fitness standards. You're accepted into the FBI Academy at Quantico, Virginia. 20 weeks of training that will turn you from a college graduate into a federal agent. Your father comes to the graduation. He sits in the second row because the first row is reserved for the director's party. He wears his best suit, the navy one he bought for your college graduation. He shakes your hand afterward and holds it for 2 seconds longer than normal and says, "I'm proud of you." His eyes are wet. You think it's emotion? It is emotion, just not the kind you think. You spend your first 3 years in the Bureau's Chicago field office on a financial crimes task force. You're good, patient, methodical, precise. You build cases the way your father taught you to build eggs. Low heat, slow circles. You develop a reputation for finding patterns in financial data that other agents miss, the small discrepancies that reveal large systems, wire transfers that don't match invoices, shell companies registered in states where the principals have never lived, revenue streams that appear legitimate until you pull one thread and the entire fabric unravels. By year 5, you've contributed to cases that recovered over $40 million in stolen funds. By year 7, you're leading your own investigations. By year 9, you're the agent other agents request when a case is too tangled to see through. Your supervisor calls you the accountant as a compliment. You think of your father every time she says it because he's the one who taught you that numbers have grammar, that money moves in sentences, and that the truth is always in the structure, even when the words lie. On a Monday in October, your supervisor drops a sealed file on your desk. New case, high priority, a wire fraud network operating across 6 Midwestern states. The target is a financial consulting operation that has been systematically embezzling from pension funds managed by municipal employee unions. Teachers, firefighters, sanitation workers, people who worked 30 years and trusted that the money deducted from their paychecks every month would be there when they retired. The estimated theft is $11 million over 14 years, laundered through a network of shell companies, fake invoices, and legitimate-looking investment vehicles that exist only on paper. You open the file. Page 1 is a corporate structure diagram showing the shell companies and their relationships. The names mean nothing to you. Page 2 is a list of suspects with known associations to the network. You read the names the way you read every suspect list, top to bottom, looking for patterns, connections, anything that triggers recognition. The third name is your father's. You read it again. You read it 4 more times. The letters don't rearrange. The name doesn't change. It sits on the page with the quiet permanence of something that has always been true and was simply waiting for you to look at it. Your father's name, his date of birth, his business address, his role in the network, principal architect of the shell company, infrastructure and primary manager of laundered fund distribution. Not a peripheral figure, not a minor participant, the architect. The designer, the man who built the system that stole $11 million from people who spent their lives teaching children and fighting fires and collecting trash so that cities could function. You should recuse yourself immediately. Federal regulations are explicit. An agent with a personal connection to a subject of investigation must disclose the conflict and step away. You know this. You've enforced this policy on other agents. You've written memos about it. You don't recuse. You close the file. You sit at your desk for 11 minutes. Then you open it again and begin reading from the beginning. You tell yourself you're staying on the case to protect your father. to ensure the investigation is conducted fairly. To prevent some other agent from building a headline case that involves a pre-dawn raid with cameras and a perp walk designed for the evening news. That's the first lie you tell yourself. You need to see the evidence yourself, follow it yourself, build the case yourself, because until you do, there is still a version of reality where the third name on that list is a mistake. And you need to eliminate that version before you can face what's left. It's not a mistake. The evidence is not just sufficient, it's architectural. Your father didn't stumble into fraud. He designed a system of extraordinary precision. Shell companies registered in Wyoming and Nevada, states with minimal disclosure requirements. Bank accounts opened in sequence across 12 institutions, each below the threshold that triggers automated reporting. Fake invoices from legitimate-looking vendors that were paid by the pension funds for services never rendered. The payments flowed through 4 layers of entities before arriving in accounts your father controlled. And at each layer, the money was mixed with legitimate revenue, so that by the time it reached its destination, the illegal funds were indistinguishable from legal ones. The system had been operating for 14 years. It was designed by someone who understood exactly how financial investigations work, what auditors look for, what triggers regulatory review, and how to stay beneath every threshold. It was designed by someone who thought the way you think. Patient, methodical, low heat, slow circles. You pull the financial records, all of them, not just the pension fund side, your father's personal accounts, his business accounts, the trust accounts associated with your family. You do this after hours, alone in the office, because looking at your own family's money through the lens of a federal investigation feels like performing surgery on yourself without anesthesia. The money moves in patterns you recognize, because you've spent 9 years learning to read these patterns. Your father's consulting income was real but modest, roughly $120,000 a year. Comfortable for Naperville, but not enough for what your childhood actually cost. Private high school tuition, $22,000 a year for 4 years. SAT prep, $14,000 total. University of Virginia, approximately $260,000 for 4 years, including room and board, your car, the house renovations, the family vacations, the deposit on your apartment in Quantico that your father quietly covered when you started the academy because you hadn't received your first paycheck yet. You do the math the way you do math on every case. You subtract legitimate income from total expenditure, and the gap is approximately $600,000 over 14 years. Your childhood, your education, your career preparation, the financial architecture of the life that produced a federal agent with a specialty in financial crime was subsidized by stolen pension money. The suit your father wore to your academy graduation was purchased with funds taken from a 62-year-old teacher in Peoria, Illinois, who filed a complaint with her union last year because her pension distribution was 38% lower than projected. You've read her complaint. It's in the case file. Her name is Margaret. She taught 4th grade for 31 years. She can't retire because the money she was promised doesn't exist anymore. It exists as a Navy suit in your father's closet. It exists as a diploma on your wall. It exists as the badge clipped to your belt. You find the trust account 2 weeks into the investigation. It's in your name, opened when you were 9 years old, funded monthly for 14 years. Not from your father's consulting income, from the network. $1,000 a month, every month, for 168 months, $168,000. Sitting in an account you didn't know existed, funded by money stolen from municipal workers, designated for your benefit. Your father didn't just use stolen money to raise you, he formalized it. He created a financial instrument specifically designed to transfer the proceeds of pension fraud to his son. The trust account is evidence that connects your father to the network through a direct financial pipeline to his child. Evidence that a defense attorney could argue demonstrates the agent's personal financial benefit from the crime under investigation. Evidence that could end your career if anyone discovers that the lead investigator's education, training, and livelihood were funded by the operation he's investigating. You build the case anyway. 3 more months. You work nights and weekends. You pull transaction records, subpoena bank statements, interview former employees of the shell companies who are willing to cooperate in exchange for reduced charges. The case grows from 11 million to 14.6 million when you discover a second layer of shell companies that the initial investigation missed. 412 victims across 6 states, teachers, firefighters, sanitation workers, municipal clerks. People who trusted the system with their futures and discovered that the system had a parasite, and the parasite had a son, and the son became a federal agent, and the federal agent is now the one documenting exactly how much was taken and from whom. You present the case to the United States Attorney's Office on a Thursday afternoon. 23 defendants. Your father is defendant number 3. The indictment is approved the following Tuesday. Arrest warrants are issued. The standard procedure is a coordinated pre-dawn operation. The real reason is that you are going to arrest your father, and you are going to do it alone, because the last thing this man deserves, after everything he's done, and everything he built, and everything he stole, is the dignity of being arrested by someone who loves him, rather than someone who doesn't. You drive to Naperville on a Wednesday morning, 6 a.m. The streets are empty. The neighborhood is quiet. You park in front of the house you grew up in. The sedan in the driveway is newer than the one you remember, but the same make and color because your father is a man of routine. You walk to the front door. You ring the doorbell instead of knocking, because knocking at 6 a.m. sounds like a raid, and ringing sounds like a visitor. Your mother opens the door. She's in her robe. She looks at you with the confusion of a woman whose son doesn't usually appear unannounced on a Wednesday morning. She says your name. She says, "Come in." She starts to move toward the kitchen to make coffee, because that's what she does when anyone enters her home. She feeds them, and the instinct is so deep that even the FBI badge on your belt doesn't override it. You tell her to wait. You ask where Dad is. She says he's in the kitchen. He's at the table, reading the newspaper. A cup of coffee in front of him, halfway finished. He's wearing a flannel shirt and reading glasses. He looks up when you walk in. He sees the badge. He sees the handcuffs on your belt. He sees your face, which is doing something you can't control, because you've spent 9 years learning to control your face in interrogations and depositions and courtrooms. But you cannot control your face in your father's kitchen at 6 in the morning. He puts the newspaper down. He takes off his glasses. He folds them and places them on the table next to his coffee. He looks at you the way he looked at you when you were 7, and the eggs came out perfect. The same expression, pride, and something else, something heavier. He says, "I knew it'd be you. Not I knew this day would come. Not I knew they'd find me." He says, "I knew it'd be you. Specifically. Personally." He knew that the son he built with stolen money would be the one to find the theft, because he built that son to be exactly the kind of person who would find it. Patient, methodical, thorough. The qualities he installed at the stove, the attention to detail, the refusal to rush, the insistence on doing things right, those are the same qualities that led you to his name on page 2 of a federal case file. He designed the agent who caught him, not intentionally, not as a plan, but as a consequence of doing the one honest thing he ever did, which was raising you to be better than him. He stands up. He turns around. He puts his hands behind his back without being asked. He knows the procedure because he's watched enough television, or because he's imagined this moment enough times that the choreography is already rehearsed. You take the handcuffs off your belt. Your hands are not steady. They've been steady through 200 interviews, 47 arrests, 11 armed operations. They are not steady now. You place the cuffs on your father's wrists in the kitchen, where he taught you to make scrambled eggs. The metal clicks. The sound is small and enormous at the same time. Your mother is standing in the doorway. She's not speaking. Her hand is over her mouth. She doesn't understand what's happening yet. She will, soon. And the understanding will reorganize her entire life, the way it reorganized yours 3 months ago, when you read the third name on the list. You read him his rights. You've read Miranda so many times that the words usually come automatically, like breathing. Today, each word weighs something. You have the right to remain silent. He's already silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. He has nothing to say. You have the right to an attorney. He'll need one. You walk him out the front door. The neighbors aren't awake yet. The street is empty. You open the back door of your car. He ducks his head and sits down the way people sit down in the back of federal vehicles, carefully, because the seat isn't designed for handcuffed hands, and the posture requires adjustment. You close the door. You stand in the driveway for a moment. The house looks the same as it always has. White siding, black shutters, the garden your mother planted the year you started high school, the basketball hoop over the garage that your father installed when you were 10 and never took down, even after you stopped playing, because taking it down would mean admitting that the child who used it was gone. The drive to the field office is 43 minutes. You drive the speed limit. You don't turn on the radio. Your father sits in the back seat and looks out the window. He doesn't ask questions. He doesn't protest. He doesn't explain. Somewhere around the 20-minute mark, he speaks. He says, "The trust account. Did you find it?" You say yes. He says, "I should have closed it years ago, but I couldn't. It was the only honest thing about the money. It went to you." You don't respond. The logic is his, not yours. Stolen money directed toward your future was not honest. But the intention behind it, the belief that his son's potential justified the theft, that was the engine that drove 14 years of fraud. He didn't steal because he was greedy. He stole because he saw something in you at age 7 that he believed was worth funding at any cost, and the cost was 412 strangers' retirements. He's processed, photographed, fingerprinted, booked. He pleads guilty 4 months later. He cooperates fully. He provides documentation, account access, testimony. The cooperation reduces his sentence. He receives 9 years federal. He's 61 at sentencing. He'll be 70 when he's eligible for release. The courtroom is quiet when the sentence is read. Your mother is in the gallery. She hasn't spoken to you in 3 months. Not because she's angry at you, because looking at you requires looking at what your father did, and she's not ready to hold both things in her vision at the same time, the son and the crime that built him. You visit him, first Sunday of every month, 3-hour drive to the federal facility in Pekin, Illinois. You sit across a table in a visiting room that smells like cleaning solution and vending machine coffee. He asks about your work. You tell him what you can. He asks about your mother. You tell him what you know, which is less each month. because she's retreating into the house the way people retreat into silence when the world becomes too heavy for language. He asks about the eggs. Whether you still make them. You say yes. He says good. Make sure you use low heat. You say you know. He says I know you know, but I like saying it. On the 6th visit, he tells you something you weren't expecting. He says he's relieved.